We will get started. We do have a little bit of an agenda tonight. First, I want to welcome all of our 57 families here, and I'm assuming that that it's not just one person in your household. Maybe there's several of you there. So welcome to everyone. Oh, we got a few more. It's jumping up to close to 60 now. And so tonight, I will first introduce a couple of our visitors tonight that will be presenting some information for you. And then I will come back and talk to you a little bit more about the decision for term 3 and what we're looking and hoping for term 4 and for next year. And then hopefully address some of the questions that we received ahead of time. And then Mike and Brianna will also talk to you. The 3 of us will be addressing the questions that were sent ahead of time. So the Q&A will be open at some point, and if there's any questions above and beyond that you have, or if this brings other questions to mind, we would ask you to put it into the Q&A box. Is the chat box running? Are they both running at the same time?
Ms. Lindsay, they both are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I will first introduce you to Jana Jobel. I think that many of you have received some emails from Jana about the 10-week health challenge that we've had. I know I'm participating in that, and many others are as well. And so she wanted to come and take a moment and talk to you a little bit about that. Jana's been working with us all year, helping us with some grants for our science program coming up that we're hoping to receive. And she's been doing a lot of mental health and physical health work with us. And then after Jana speaks with you, Kate Driver, our Director of School Counseling, is also here. And Kate will be talking to you about some social emotional supports this evening. And then I'll be back.
Thank you, Ellen, for the warm welcome, and thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to share with you a couple of opportunities that are all grant funded that we hope you take part in. So first, I'll briefly describe the goal-oriented challenge that Ellen just mentioned. It's 10 weeks, but we're into the 3rd week, but you can still register. Please do. I'm actually going to put the link for the registration details into the chat right now. But essentially, you'll get a Google Forms on Monday where you set a goal for that week that builds into a larger goal. And on Friday, you report on whether or not you met it. And each week, there's a $25 gift card that's given out randomly. And then at the end of the 10 weeks, it's going to be a $100 gift card. And the idea is just to support you and your children and the staff in building healthy habits. Because during a pandemic, it's so hard. We're all struggling just to get up and function through each day. And this is to help us stay oriented around our health and our well-being. And remember that the pandemic is going to be over soon, and we're going to get back on with the business of being successful, happy, healthy people. And on that note, we also have some really exciting, completely free, AMSA-only virtual classes online. So on Mondays, we have Zumba at 3:30. And on Wednesdays at 3:30, we have student yoga, and at 4:15, we have staff yoga. And on Thursdays, we have martial arts, which is a bilingual offering in Portuguese and in English. And these are completely free. But I must say, and I must reiterate, you need an AMSA email so we don't get Zoom bombed. So if any of you, I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. If you go to it without an AMSA email address, it will not work. But you can use your students, and hopefully you can do it together. That would be lovely. And you can even do it in the same house using the same login, but on 2 different devices. That's fine. And next week, if you go to, for each class, we're going to offer a $5 random draw for each class to boost attendance, because we know it's so hard just to get up and do anything during the pandemic. And we want to get you moving, we want to keep you happy, we want to help you be successful. Thank you for your time tonight. If you have any questions, please ask me in the chat. I'll also put my email for any of this. Please feel free to reach out. No question is too small or silly. I really appreciate being able to communicate with you. So please, please do reach out. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jana. We're so excited about it, and it's got me back on my treadmill again. So, first time in a long time. Thank you.
Yeah, but I went to Zumba on Monday and remembered how not coordinated I am. So I wouldn't put my camera on because I was just too embarrassed. But I had a lot of fun. I laughed a lot and I tripped a lot. Anyway, so my name is Kate Driver. I'm the Director of School Counseling. You may see me at Zumba on Mondays. Well, you won't see me, but you'll see my name. And I just wanted to stop by and plug a couple of resources that many of you may have already heard about, but I think are really important. We know that winter is hard and things are even harder right now. And so if your student is struggling with mental health challenges, if you're worried about anxiety, depression, other emerging mental health issues, we have a couple of really great resources that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. We work with William James College. We've partnered with them to offer the Interface referral service for you. I'll put all these links in the chat in a minute. Interface is a hotline that you call during weekly business hours. It's not available on a crisis basis. We do have crisis numbers available as well, but Interface is a service that you call them and then that you do an intake with them, and then they work to pair you with a mental health professional in the community who can work on your student's timeline, has experience with the presenting problem. They also offer multilingual options, and they possibly most importantly, they will work to find someone that takes your insurance, because I know sometimes that's one of the most complicated things, and has openings. We know that there are wait lists a lot of places. So we highly recommend the William James Interface Referral Service. They do a really nice job. We also have a partnership with the Behavioral Health Partners of Metro West. They have a similar referral service. And so that's another resource if you either try Interface or feel like there's something else that you're looking for. Behavioral Health Partners does a really nice job of helping match folks with providers. Lastly, something that I'm really excited about that we're going to be offering soon is some groups. We're going to start out actually offering an orientation group on self-care for parents in a couple of weeks, because we know that, for better or for worse, you have to take care of yourself before you can manage all the other things that are happening in your lives. And there's, I think there's a lot going on for caretakers right now, regardless of what role caretaker you are. Chances are, if you're in this meeting, you at least caretake for a child. Anyway, so we'll be offering a group for you, the way it works, you'll come to an orientation session, and then after that, you'll have an opportunity to join a group that will meet for, I can't remember exactly how many weeks, but that's really just focused on helping you cope. They're called coping groups, and they're run by an outside clinician. It's a great opportunity. Mass Support is funded by FEMA. And it's specific to COVID-related stress. So we'll be offering some programming to you through that opportunity. We'll eventually also be setting up some options for your students to participate in some groups with clinicians if you're interested. There'll be plenty more information about this, but I'm working on getting this off the ground pretty soon. So there will be some additional support options for those of us who are struggling. And lastly, actually, I don't need to put that link in because Mr. Finkel already put in the link to other community resources that we've identified for AMSIS students. We have students who have a variety of different needs, and so that page has a bunch of other links to different kinds of supports that students and families may be in need of right now. As always, please email me anytime. I'm putting Interface, Behavioral Health Partners of Metro West, and Mass Support all in the chat, as well as my email. I'm happy to answer any questions. Happy to try to help, figure out where you need to go if you need something. And it's just, I know there's a lot happening right now, and we're doing our best to make sure that we're all staying well and healthy, and we hope that, that you are too. I'm happy to answer, if there's any questions, you can pop them in the chat. I'm just going to hang out for a couple more minutes, and I'm actually going to hop off and go to a class. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Kate. Appreciate you both so much. And okay, so I'm going to speak with you now. I'm going to address some of the questions that were submitted around mostly the questions were around fourth quarter and what are we thinking. But I do want to explain a little bit about the HVAC system because there was some questions around, you know, why hadn't this been fixed and addressed before? And, you know, I'm just going to give you a little itty bitty bit of history here because we have new parents, right? We have people who haven't been members of the school community for 15 years, and AMSA is in our 16th year. The school started out in the lower school building where the 6th and 7th graders are, and we occupied that building. The landlord worked with the founder. And over time, as the school grew each year and the classes were added on, then we moved across to the upper school building. And at one point, I believe there was an insurance company in there running on one part of the building, and then the school was running on the other part. And then as we grew and grew, we took over that second building. And then we started using one floor of the white building. Some of you who have been around for a while may remember that about 2.5 years ago, going on 3 years ago, I guess it would be 3 years in March, we purchased that white building. It had gone into foreclosure, was purchased by the bank, then was purchased by someone else, and we bought it from that next person. And so we own that building, but we do not own the other two buildings. And the two larger buildings, they are still owned by our landlord. And although the landlord and I have a very good relationship now, there have been years and years that it's been very, very contentious. In fact, the school was in a court case. You can Google and find out all the information you'd like. And that case went on for years. And the case was around the conditions of the building, the buildings and the HVAC system, and the problems that it was causing in the building. And it allowed us to actually break the lease that we had so that we could look for another location, which we've been doing for years. I've actually personally put many hours into about 5 different buildings and plans and fit plans and other buildings in Marlborough. We have, it's always comes down to a money issue. We are close right now, and I'm working on something else, but we haven't ever been able to get the landlord to agree to completely address the HVAC systems. They're very expensive to fix. There's been a lot of patchwork done on them, but they've never been completely fixed. At the moment, we had a complete crack in one of the boilers of the lower school building fairly recently, and that did cause that to completely break down. And if you go up to the building right now, you're going to see there's a temporary, huge truck with a temporary boiler in it that is hooked up to the school. And I will say that I've never been so hot in that school in my life. But, you know, so there's ongoing issues there with the HVAC that we have not been able to resolve with our landlord. So it's been somewhat out of our control. Now, what COVID brought was flexibility and allowed me to have a conversation with the landlord in order to be able to get that airflow test done, because we needed his permission in order to actually be able to perform those tests on his buildings. And due to COVID, he allowed us to do that. But in the past, he had never allowed us to do that. So we weren't fully aware of the conditions since we had moved in. So once we had that work done and we found out where the issues were when they went in December, and they went actually through the roof and all of that, when they were trying to balance it and fix it, that's when they found out that the control system in the 3 buildings was gone. What the control system does in Ellen terms, because I can't explain it the way that our director of facilities does, but basically when you have a classroom or your room at home, but a classroom, a commercial building, you set the thermostat to like 72. That triggers the heat to come on, and it makes the damper come up and the air comes in. And what is happening right now is the air comes in, it registers at 72 in the thermostat, and then the damper closes. And what is supposed to happen is that the damper is always supposed to stay open to some degree, and the air is supposed to continue to flow in there and exchange for 6 exchanges per hour in those rooms. And because the controller is gone, the damper closes until the thermostat drops, and then it triggers the heat on, and then the damper opens up again. So that continual airflow that is supposed to be happening is not happening. And we didn't know that the control system was broken until the engineers could get on the roof and go through those systems, which we've never been allowed to do. So that's the problem with the control system, and we are going to link those 3 buildings. We have the bids out that Eric Lane, our facilities director, is processing right now, and we will get one controlling system that will actually control all 3 buildings. And so that is a positive thing. So that's what's happened with the control system. That's a little bit of the history on why it hasn't been done in the past. If you talk to your students, and I know that you have, unless you're new and you're 6th graders or new students and your kids haven't been in the buildings yet, you'll know that we've been patching this along for years. In the winter, sometimes we have little electric heaters running, and sometimes in the summer we have fans running. And that was to try to make those rooms as comfortable as we could, as we begged and pleaded to have the work done. And once again, it would be a Band-Aid, and a Band-Aid that would fix it for a period of time, but it was never the real fix that we needed. So that's what has happened with the, so yes, disappointing, absolutely disappointing. It wasn't what I expected. And neither did our director of facilities expect to find a major system like that was broken, that was actually preventing the air from exchanging. And so, yes, that was a devastating find. As far as the cafeterias are concerned, and I mentioned in the letter, we have air purifiers in those rooms now. But the cafeterias, Eric doesn't believe, with the numbers that he's run, that even when the control system is up and running, that those cafeterias, because they need 10 exchanges and they're such a large space, that they're going to be able to hit that 10 exchanges even with the new control system, which means we're going to probably need to get some other type of remediation done to the 2 cafeterias. And he is working on that currently as well. So once again, as I said, it was a very disappointing find. We really thought we would have the building certified in January, and we didn't. And at the same time that all of that was happening with the buildings, we were seeing the COVID numbers raging after the holidays, after New Year's, but it is looking better now. And so I want to talk a little bit about what are we thinking. Folks asked about 4th term, and do we think that it's a possibility of getting back into school 4th term, or next fall? And so a couple things that I'm thinking around that. One is that I am a little concerned that some are starting to feel that I don't want to go back to school, or that that we as educators don't want to get back in those buildings and get back to teaching. And I want to assure you that that is not the case. I no longer want to work in my kitchen. I want to get back to our students. I want to get back to my team. I want to get back to your kids. And yesterday I had an opportunity to proctor the PSAT for our 11th graders. And I had 9 students in a classroom. And I kept telling Kate, please make me a proctor. I want a proctor, because some of you may remember that I'm a school counselor, and I used to run PSAT programs, and I just wanted to feel that again. And I did. I went in, I had 9 11th graders in front of me, and there was probably about 4 or so, that I had their older students, I had their older siblings as my students. And so the next generation, anyway, I was reading a stupid script for PSAT, and it just felt so right. So please don't ever think that we don't want to be back in school. We really, really do. And I'm very, very motivated to get everything in place that we need to in order to get back fourth term. And one of the parts of that that's so important to me personally, and I know to Mike and Brianna as well, is I've had a lot of conversations. Scott Juray, who's our science department chair, who's also a friend of mine. And Scott and I have had a lot of conversations around the importance of getting those kids back into the labs. And I talked to the staff about this during our last staff meeting. I'm very motivated to get those kids back into our science labs for fourth term. What Scott has done and his teachers have done is they have rearranged the curriculum so that the kids are getting the information up front now, with the hope that fourth term that they'll be able to go back and they'll be able to do kind of lab after lab after lab after lab and get all the labs done for the content and information that they've learned at this point. So please know that is forever and always on our minds. We are worried about our kids being at home and the progress. Some of them are making great progress, and some of them are struggling. And Mike's going to talk to you a little bit about the plans that we have in place to support those kids. But not only that, when the spring comes and the weather's a little bit warmer, even if we're not ready to have those cafeterias working, we can get tents. Like I can get circus tents out somewhere and kids can have lunch out there, right? And we can bring back as many as we can. And so that brings us a little bit more flexibility where we don't have to feed them inside. We could feed them outside. The other thing that I want to just update you on quickly is I was on a phone call actually at 3:30 this afternoon with the commissioner, and he had a call with all the superintendents in the state. There was close to 560 or so people on that call today. And he talked about that. So you may remember originally back in May and June and July, and actually all through the summer, that they were issuing us reopening guidance. And there's pages of reopening guidance that we received, and it had to do with busing and how far, how many kids could be on a bus, and that the windows had to be opened, and how far apart the spacing was between desks. It had to do with how many kids could be in the bathroom at a time, and it had many components to it. And what he told us today was that they are in the process of actually reviewing all of those documents and all of those guidance plans, and they're updating them. And that we're hopeful, and he is hopeful, that with the vaccine rollout and with the numbers decreasing, and of course as more of us get vaccinated and the numbers continue to decrease, that we're going to be able to get back to school more and more. Now remember that we also have a challenge with the size of our classrooms. And even if they say right now it's 3 to 6 feet of spacing, 3 feet of spacing still means that we can only bring about half the kids back at a time. So that's the 50-50 hybrid that some schools are doing. What we really need them to say is that enough people are vaccinated, that our teachers, our educators are vaccinated, and that then that if we all wear masks and we hand wash and we basically stay apart, people aren't hugging and things like that, but that we can get back into school. We're going to make sure that happens as soon as we can. So I'm going to be very interested. This is new information that he gave us today, he has his team of medical people that are reviewing all of the old guidance, and that the CDC is also starting to review that as the vaccine rolls out and what those changes are going to be. So yes, I'm feeling hopeful for fourth term. I just want to look here at my list to make sure I haven't missed anything. Feeling hopeful for fourth term, and you know, we're going to keep watching it as closely as we can. As far as the fall and what the fall is going to bring, he did say that they don't know yet. They are definitely working on that. It sounds as though they're going to want everyone back in school in the fall unless there's some significant medical excusal that a student would need to have. So it doesn't sound as though right now there's 100% choice of whether a family sends a child into school or not, but it doesn't sound as that's the direction that they're moving in the fall. But of course, you know, variance, we don't know what's going to happen with that. And so we're going to continue to watch the recommendation of the Department of Education here. So I did want to mention that because someone asked about what happens when the kids aren't able to get vaccinated because the vaccine is 16 and up. We're just going to keep watching the recommendations of, our Department of Public Health here in Massachusetts and CDC recommendations, and that as far as the fall is concerned. But all of us on this screen here are very, very hopeful for the fall, and we are feeling more and more hopeful for fourth term. We do want to say, though, that although we want to get back to school very, very much, that, you know, for so many reasons. I mean, not just the science, but also the mental health and well-being of our students, but our staff as well. Everybody, and for all of you who need your kids to get back to school, we also want to re-emphasize that we also believe, as my letter said, that consistency is very important. And although the remote learning program has not been optimal, I mean, it just isn't. We want kids in school. It has provided your children with a solid experience that's been consistent. Now, I will tell you, we have had many, because we're tracking, students and families have COVID in their homes, as well as staff members, teachers and non-teaching staff. And every single one of those times that we have found out that we've had someone in the community, in the entire community, test positive for COVID, you realize the disruption that would cause, right? The teacher would be out for 14 days. The teacher might be ill. The kids are out. And anyone who was within their proximity is also now out and quarantined. And every time you move those kids in and out and teachers in and out, you're losing time learning. We have had teachers who you probably, and your kids probably don't even know, have tested positive for COVID, but are teaching, because they've had a mild case and they've been able to continue to teach. In another model, they would be home for 14 days or till whatever, you know, test they tested negative on, and your child would have a sub. And maybe that teacher might have brought it into the classroom, or a child has brought it in, or whatever. And we know that they say that the schools are not super spreaders, but that doesn't mean that there aren't still cases in schools every day. It's just the schools have done a really good job of getting people out, right? So you come in, you're sick, you're out, and you quarantine just the people who are immediately around you. So just, you know, I want you to keep that in mind, the consistency that your kids are learning, they're making progress. And I got an email from a parent earlier this week, and she was thanking me for staying remote this term. And she's a teacher in another district that's hybrid. And she said, you know, we never know what's happening when we get into school. It's a new day. You have no idea what teachers are out, who's quarantining, who's being isolated, which group is coming in and out. And that she's not seeing that consistency of kids learning every day and engaging in education every day. And so, you know, there's viewpoints all over on this. I'm going to just one more thing that I'm going to address, and then I'm going to turn the time over to Mike and Brianna. And that is, someone asked about curriculum remediation and where are we with the curriculum and how do we plan on catching up? So I will say that during our department chair meeting yesterday, we're having a mid-year check-in by February vacation. The department chairs will be sending Mike and Brianna and myself an accounting of how far each one of the classes has gotten. So, in algebra class, are they where they should be or where they normally would be mid-year or not? And how they're, where they expect to get by the end of the year. And we'll do that again at the end of the year so that we're able then to look forward and say, okay, this is what we need to do. I can tell you that Luba Schmidt, who is our math department chair, mentioned to me yesterday that when they went into this school year, she adjusted the curriculum and the expectations for what the kids were going to learn this year to 80%. With the expectation that they would hit that 80% by the end of the year, and that included remediation from last spring. So she was doing last spring's work plus 80% of this year's, taking that other 20% and bringing it forward and expected to catch up, which is about what we thought, that it's probably going to take us about 2 years to fully catch up. And history has done a little shift on their timeline as well, as they've looked at the topics that they need to teach as well. So I think that you're going to see that your kids are going to make up the time and the content, and that the department chairs are being very, very mindful about how that's going to play out over time. So that is the end of what I'm going to say. I'm going to turn the time over to Mike and Brianna, and they have some more information for you.
Yep. Thanks, Ellen. I was on campus. Yeah, well, I'm on campus every day, but it was nice to see students on campus yesterday for the PSAT. You don't realize really until, going through this whole pandemic and having the students out, had some pretty funny conversations with some of the students, just the little things that you end up realizing that you miss. One of the students said he hit a pothole on the way in. He busted his car tire, which isn't funny, but he was laughing about it. And, just the little things that when you deal with a school, and another student needed a form signed and was looking for the front desk receptionist. I don't know. We had some good laughs in the little interaction that we had to have yesterday. So it was good to see the students on campus for sure. Just wanted to throw that out there. And I second what Ellen said. I think we all really are as hopeful as we can be about Q4. I hope we can get back in person as soon as possible. I've been thinking that since March of last year. So I'm just going to speak very quickly about 3 different programs that we are looking to operate in response to what we've been dealing with for this school year. So number 1 is an in-person support program that we're putting together. The start date for that program is February 9th. So it's coming up quite soon. And with that, right now, we're capping that off at 30 students. We're inviting students. Invitations have already started to go out this week. I believe they've all been sent out at this point. So we sent out invitations to particular students based on academic achievement, we looked at academic achievement along with other different subgroups and categories, and invited a group of students in. We're waiting for the responses from those invitations. And we're looking to run an in-person program where the students will come in on campus each day, not on the flex days, but it would be 4 days per week. The flex day, this in-person program would not operate. But for the 4 days of synchronous learning where the students are on Zoom in their classes, they would be supervised by we're calling them a remote learning supervisor. We are hiring 3 different supervisor positions to help supervise this program. Students will be coming in to campus, into a classroom, and taking part in their usual schedule. They would follow their exact schedule as they would be if they were at home. We're just looking to provide that campus and school environment for the students. So there is no additional instruction or one-to-one tutoring, anything like that involved with the program. It's strictly just a change in environment for students based on many factors that we deemed would be appropriate to invite to the program. And we do have a list of students that we've identified through this process. Well over 30 students. Unfortunately, we're not at the point right now where we can invite everybody in. Trust me, I wish that we could invite all students back in. But we do want to start small, go through a trial phase, and as time goes on, my hope at the very least would be to maybe expand this particular program if we don't have the opportunity to come back in any sort of hybrid model in April. If it does shake out that way, maybe we can find a way to add some additional options or expand on this particular program. Or maybe the program won't work well at all. You know, we really don't know yet. We've never been through this before. So again, we're capping it out at 30 students for that particular reason. We're going to see how it goes, and we'll move on from there. Another program that we are looking to run this summer would be a summer school program. Traditionally, summer schools have always existed, not necessarily on AMSA's campus, but traditional credit recovery summer school programs. We have had students who, if they end up with a failing cumulative or final grade for the year, we would have those students attend summer school if they were eligible for summer school. We would usually send those students out to Assabet Valley, hosts a big summer school program for many districts in central Massachusetts. So most of our high school students would go to Assabet right here in Marlborough, and we would send our middle school students to Milford Middle School, where they ran a summer school program as well. We do not foresee those two as being options this upcoming summer. So we are going to host summer school program here on site at AMSA. And we are in the process of hiring a summer school coordinator position. We'll staff the summer school with our teaching staff to the best of our abilities. I'm assuming we'll have enough applicants for that. And the students will go through a credit recovery process where they'll receive our direct AMSA curriculum as well. Now, when we send students to different districts, as we have in the past, they're not receiving the same material. They don't have the same instruction being delivered or curriculum being delivered at these other programs. Now that we are going to host this on site, we have that opportunity now for the students truly to catch up and to fill in any necessary gaps there. So more information will come out on that program as we move toward the summer months. And along with that, in conjunction with that, most likely, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look yet. It really depends on the enrollment numbers, but we are looking to also run a summer enrichment program. Now, the enrichment program would be for students who passed their classes, but maybe they passed with a grade of a D or a D plus or a C minus or a C. We're going to be calling on the different departments here at the school and the teachers within those departments to put together a list of students that they believe would benefit from summer enrichment programs in a particular subject. We'll see what that list looks like and come up with a plan to offer enrichment. And that would be, a voluntary program. We would invite the students in, send a letter to the families inviting those particular students in for enrichment. And we would go through that process. Again, I believe that will start taking place probably as we get into April. Once quarter 3 comes to a close, we'll have more of an idea of who's on pace to potentially be invited into an enrichment type of program. So please stay tuned for that. That's what we're working on our end. It's not perfect. It's not ideal. I think we all understand that. But it's some nice steps in the right direction. And hopefully moving forward, once we get past all of this, hopefully we can receive funding, or we can come up with programs here on campus that we can run each and every summer for enrichment and summer school. So I think that's about all. There was one other question that popped up from a particular parent, but I think it's a great question, because we know that there are many students who are struggling with online learning, and maybe their grades are dipping a little bit. They're not what they used to be. Maybe a student who was traditionally an A, B student is performing at a C or D level right now, according to their first quarter and second quarter performances. To seek help in those areas, our suggestion is to reach out to the particular teacher, the specific teacher, or the counselor. We do have some programs that are up and running right now. We just started up a new tutoring service, which the students are referred in by a teacher or administrator or counselor. But parents are free to reach out to the counselor and the teacher to weigh out their options, to ask questions, and to ask for ways to help improve your particular situation. Tutoring service may not be the first option. There may be some other interventions or plans that are put in place. But please do not just sit and wonder where you can go, where you should go. For those of you who weren't really sure, please, you need to feel free to communicate with the teacher and your school and your child's school counselor, and ask about what next steps can we take to improve my child's performance. We also have a math intervention program. Again, this is the referral process is initiated by the teaching staff or administration, counselor. But again, reach out, ask questions about these programs. It may not be the first option, like I said, but it doesn't hurt to ask for assistance, ask for help, and we'll get you on the right route to recovering from any academic struggles that are taking place. So I know I just went over a ton of information. I hope that it all sunk in a little bit. If anybody ever has any questions for me, you can, of course, feel free to email me at any time. And with that, I will kick it over to Miss Murphy.
Hi, thanks, Mike. I'm going to second what Ellen and Mike already said about proctoring yesterday. I don't think I've ever been so happy while proctoring an exam. Usually it's the most mundane thing you can imagine. It's, obviously it's quiet, you're not actually working with students, but just to actually be there and see everyone and just kind of laugh about the fact that we were all back to take a test was really nice. And yeah, it was great to actually be in the classroom, right on a whiteboard, passing out materials. All these things were making me nostalgic yesterday. So it was definitely a nice, chance to get to see everyone and just check in and visually see students for the first time in a long time. So I'm going to address a couple questions that came up and also give a plug for one of our groups. So one question that was submitted was regarding the 8th grade move up graduation ceremony that we've done in the past. This is definitely something that we can arrange to do outside in the spring. We don't have a date just yet, but it's, it was great to have this question submitted to start thinking about it, because, that time of year will be here before we know it. So it's definitely something that, again, that we'll be able to arrange. Typically, we do it at one of the area hotels, and it's inside and enclosed, so I don't see that version happening. But certainly, again, we can figure out a way to do it outside, possibly using 4 kicks or, even getting creative with some of our space on campus too. So keep an eye out for that. We also had a couple questions about our scheduled overseas trips. So I've been in contact with EF pretty consistently throughout this whole closure process, because we had a lot of trips that were in the works. Right now, as they have phrased it, they are cautiously optimistic for anything scheduled for the summer. But I think, we can all draw our own conclusions if we're still seeing like a small percentage of the population that is vaccinated right now, and also even just what individual countries have as standards for allowing international visitors through their borders. My feeling is that things might not run as we're hoping for the summer, because we would have to make the decisions on these trips in the spring. So, but we'll see. Again, I'm in very constant communication with EF and just getting all of their, their insight and what they think. Any individual questions about trips that are on the books, please reach out to the group leaders. But again, there's really no new information. Everyone's just kind of waiting to see what the next few weeks and, even next couple months will bring for all of that. And then lastly, our PTO has been operating in this remote setting and they are definitely looking to get more involvement from our families. So I did just want to plug their group. I'm going to put the link for their website, which is currently connected to our school website, although I know they're in the process of creating a new website. So I will send this to everyone. Hold on one moment. So there's some contact information that's linked on this page, so you can reach out to some names or some individuals there. Their next meeting is Tuesday, February 23rd. So a Zoom link will be going out within the next few weeks for that. So if you're interested, if you've never attended a meeting before, it's definitely good to see what they have going on. Our PTO is probably one of the strongest PTOs I've ever heard of in a school. They are very dedicated, very involved, really want to support all different facets of the school as well. They've done tremendous things for our staff over the years, but particularly this new group has been thinking of new ways to better support the students as well, and by partnering or looking to partner with different student organizations and helping out with different events and whatnot that we have for students. So if any of that sounds like something that would interest you, I definitely encourage you again to look for that meeting link for February 23rd and just check it out, go into the Zoom meeting, just see if it's something that, again, you would be interested in being involved in. They are going to be looking for new leadership for next year too. So again, if it's something that you're looking to add to your lives and your schedule, and again, to get more connected to our community, it's definitely a great place to start.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just going to jump on that topic, the PTO. The PTO needs you. They need you. And they're concerned that the membership is down. I'm sure part of that is, the participation is down. Part of that's COVID. Many of these wonderful folks that have been supporting us over the last 2 years, they have 2-year terms, and their 2 years are up this June. And so we need folks to come in and participate. We work really closely with them. Brianna does a fantastic job supporting the PTO here at school. So if you're interested, you even think you might be a little interested to meet some new friends and get to know some of your children's parents, please consider our PTO. And then just lastly, because I didn't say at the beginning, but once again, the vaccine, when I was on the call with Commissioner Riley today, he once again talked about the vaccine and the rollout of that. And educators they're in phase 2. The 75 years and up is first in phase 2. They're going to be able to start making appointments February 1st, which is Monday. And then it's the 65 and up, and then it's the educators. And so we're really hoping that by the end of February, as they get more and more sites up and running, that we hopefully will be able to start make appointments by the end of February and March, and that would get all of our adults. One of the interesting things about charter schools is that a lot of our teachers, including myself, are second career people. So you may not realize this, but I was a bank manager. I managed a branch of a bank years and years ago when I was just a young little critter. And so my undergrad is in business management. So many of us are second career folks. That means that many of us are a little older, which may surprise you, but no, not true. 40% of our staff are 50 and older. And so it's really important that we get these folks vaccinated so they can continue to, to teach your kids. And, we love our teachers. And you do too. I know you do. And I often, although this makes it sound kind of dehumanizing, and I do not mean it to be that way because I say it with the most love and respect in my heart, but our teachers are our greatest asset. They're our greatest asset. They are what makes AMSA the place that it is. Them and our department chairs, who are all, getting up there. Dr. Lewis and a few others, and he wouldn't mind if I joked about that. But that's really important. It's a really important part of AMSA. And so we want to make sure that those people are protected as well. Someone asked in the Q&A or the chat section, I'm not sure about, bringing in some grades. That would be complicated in this very moment, one, because of the vaccines and because we're so close to the vaccine now that people are feeling really anxious and hopeful about that. But also because, you know, we have a union, there'd be a lot of negotiation that would be involved in something like that. I have a lot of thoughts in my mind about that. It's something that idea that we tossed around at the beginning. But, you know, just all I can say is just stick with us just a little bit longer and just continue to be patient, and we will bring everyone back in as soon as we can, even if, you know, it's to do some activities on a Monday afternoon or something like that, when the weather gets nice. And to the wonderful mom who just sent me an email from her and her kids, thank you. And you can give your kids a big hug for me. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your note. Thank you. And that is it. We can open up for a few questions if there's anything else you'd like us to cover. I see something else come up the Q&A. Oh, sports, fall 2. Mike, have you heard anything from Pete? We meet with Pete every week. Mike's with Pete every day. Anything on, thank you, Dawn. Anything on sports on fall 2 from Pete?
I think more information will be coming out soon, but I know the plan is, I mean, we have winter sports in action right now. And the plan is to run with those, to run with fall 2 as well. I know that Mr. Jones, I was over by his office not too long ago. I know he was on a conference call, I believe, with other athletic directors in our region here, discussing fall 2 planning. So I think more information will be coming out very soon on that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, we've had basketball, we've had swimming. The boys have done hockey, and this winter we have had to stop the programs. They've had to stop. We've had positive cases on each and every one of those teams, but they're up and running after everyone's been tested and things like that. So we're hopeful for that. Someone just asked about music programs. Interestingly enough, music was actually one of the guidance documents that the commissioner referenced today. The current music guidance the state sent out because of the air out and air in and deep breathing is very, very strict, and they're looking at that right now. So they may be able to change some things around for band and jazz band and singing. So we're hopeful. Listening to him today, I tried not to let myself get too hopeful, but feeling like the numbers, we're starting to see them go down. And because of the vaccine increasing, that's a good combination.
I also just want to let everyone know we have a remote music program that's running currently. So Ed Harlow, who works with our school for our jazz band program, has been doing a remote program. He's revamped it to be more of like a music education type class, so that our instrumentalist students have an outlet for that in this remote world. But even if you just have a vague interest in music, definitely feel free to reach out to him. All of our club information is on the website. If you toggle to that tab on there, you can find more information if your child would be interested in something like that. And then I see another question here about bringing students into the buildings for clubs. Really, the only clubs that we have that have done anything in person have been all outdoor based right now. I think a lot with the HVAC and whatnot, we're concerned about making sure the buildings are safe to have larger numbers of students there. Our drama program is it's like a decently sized group of students, and they typically rehearse in the cafeteria. So that's one of those spaces where, again, the airflow isn't as optimal as it should be. Might be a little more complicated for a group like that. But, again, we're, like Ellen said, we're definitely monitoring numbers and thinking outside the box as much as possible when it comes to trying to get students to socialize more.
Yeah, and we had, if there's any 12th grade parents here, we had a 12th grade forum a bit ago. You can rewatch that on our Facebook page. and came up with some great ideas. We've been working with the PTO on additional ideas for events coming up. You know, we have 2 plans for graduation for our seniors this year. We have an inside plan at the Hanover Theater, which is traditional for us over the last few years, or outside at 4 Kicks. That's all scheduled. And so we'll go with whatever plan, you know, falls within the state guidelines this June. So we will try to bring as many kids back as we can for different activities and things as well. So Mike Finkel, and thank you for the shout out on the communication this year. I hope so. We are really trying. Communication is key, right? And I want to give a shout out to our communications manager, Mike Finkel, who is here on the screen. Mike does all the work with keeping these things running, advertising them all, the weekly newsletter, the letters that Mike, Brianna, and I send out. Anders always used to say, you know, Mike's, you know, the miracle worker, and he makes us all look good. So, you know, I want to put credit where credit is due there. We so appreciate Mike getting all our content out at all hours of the night that he does for us. And I think that's it. Do you guys see anything else in here? Let's see. So, okay. So yes, the question here about for this school year, you will always have 100% option as a family to keep your kids home. So if we're able to go back to some extent in 4th term, you will have 100% choice of your kids coming back or your kids continuing remotely from home. And that's one of the logistics, and we have increased our bandwidth, but that's one of the logistics we need to be really mindful of is that the teachers would be streaming all of their classes all at the same time all day and making sure we believe we have the bandwidth to do that. But, you know, it's hard to tell until you actually push the button, right? So yes, they would have 100% choice of whether you want to keep your children home for the rest of the year or not. I do understand that because I've heard from so many of you, many parents feel great gratitude and fully 100% support the decisions that we've made along the way. And I am grateful for that. We all get lots of emails thanking us, and I can't tell you how that sustains us through the days sometimes. So we're really, really grateful for that. But we also know that there's folks that really need for many, many reasons to get their kids back to school. Now, as far as in September, the commissioner talked about that today. And I think he's really going to limit those options. But we won't know until we hear from him, and we won't hear from him about the details of that, I think, until quite some time. But just so you kind of can plan ahead, I would plan on your kids being in school in the fall. But that you have your choice, whatever you would like to do that's best for your family for the rest of the year.